possibilities, tear down boundaries and culture shocks. So whenever and whoever and wherever I see your word, I know knowledge is power. So every hour, that's what we require. Every feeling is power. I know knowledge is power. So every hour.
To start from the very top, we're surprised this morning to have to get a call that in our midst is the chief promoter of this particular project, the executive governor of Rivers State, Right Honorable Rotimi Amaechi. Welcome all of you to this event. So this is the Port Harcourt World Book Capital 2014 briefing, and then we're going to be having conversations around the theme of the project, which is possibilities of African literature. On that note, I'd like to call on the project director for the Port Harcourt World Book Capital, the one I call the chief dreamer for this, and then to come and lead us into how did it happen? How did Nigeria get this bidding?
I'll paraphrase what the judges said. The judges said they appointed Port Harcourt UNESCO World Book Capital 2014 because of the quality of our proposed programs, the focus on youth, and the impact it promises to have on the book chain industry in Nigeria, from the writers to the editors, the booksellers, the publishers, and the readers. So that's how we got it. Thank you. So the World Book Capital is an initiative of UNESCO given to, so it's a recognition given to a city of the world, you know, for their various activities to promote books and reading. And we thought Port Harcourt was well qualified because we know Port Harcourt to be a city of oil and gas and Nigeria's famous garden city, but it also has a rich culture and in literature and education. So you may have heard of writers like Gabriel Okara, Elechi Amadi, etc. Ken Saro-Wiwa, who's now late. Younger ones like Igoni Barrett, they're all Port Harcourt writers. Port Harcourt is also home to an annual book festival that holds in October every year, where for a whole week we welcome publishers, booksellers, authors, for a book fair, for conversations, etc. So in 2 weeks' time, we'll be welcoming the world to Port Harcourt. So I want to use this opportunity to formally invite you all. People have been saying to me, oh, just invite us and you'll come. So this is the formal invitation. We look forward to welcoming you to Port Harcourt. And from the 23rd of April this year up till 22nd of April next year, we're going to be running a variety of exciting programs around books and reading. And just before I run off, because we have just 1 hour and we have so much to do, I'll just briefly talk about the Africa 39 project, which consists of the research, selection, and celebration of 39 writers from Africa south of the Sahara under the age of 40. So this is an initiative in collaboration with Hay Festival and Bloomsbury Publishers. I saw Bill Swinson from Bloomsbury here, and I think a representative of Hay is here. So that's an exciting project through which we believe we'll be discovering the Wole Soyinkas, Ayikwe Amas, and Ngugi wa Thiong'os, and Buchi Emechetas of tomorrow. So I better stop here and hand over to Jama. Thank you.
And then the first person to read is actually one of the writers who is being unveiled as part of African 39. That's Chibundu Onozo of the Spider King's daughter. Sorry. So she will come forward now and just read for about a couple of minutes for us. We actually have about 4 readings.
My name is Chibundu Onozo, and I'm going to read to you from my novel, The Spider King's Daughter. And I'm going to read to you from a Lagos scene because there are lots of Nigerians here. The Datsun stopped abruptly, narrowly missing my legs. "Clear from there," the driver said, banging on his horn. "Are you mad?" I said. "You know the sea road. My friend, come out, I go jam you. You dey craze? Oh, yeah, jam me. Come out, he said. I said, jam me today. The man swerved into the next lane. Idiot, I said. Your mama. I spread the 5 fingers of my right hand and spat. Fire for fire. That is the only way to survive on the road. When I first started hawking, I used to mind my manners. Yes, please. No, thank you, like my mother taught me. But those manners were for a boy who was meant to go to university and work in a law firm. She never told me what to do if a customer sprinted away with my money. She never gave me advice. I looked round and saw that there were only a few of us left on the road. Traffic had eased, which meant that it was time for a break. To save money, I rarely bought lunch outside, but I liked to sit with the boys while they eat. So, Anaji, why did you got job? Already, the owner of the booker was lumbering towards me, her large feet spreading dust with every step. Auntie, I don't want chop today, thank you. Why now? She said. I'm not hungry, I said. You sure you know the eat? I'm sure. She patted my head, depositing something slick onto my hair. Just manage this one. From a secret compartment in her bra, she drew out a clear plastic bag, unknotted it, and slid a piece of fried meat into my hand. Thank you, I said. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Chibundu. The next person to read is Oladele Oladeji. Is a poet, a playwright, an actor, a novelist, a dancer, and I've known him for about, I don't want to reveal my age, 35 years thereabout. Dele, please come forward.
Thank you so much. I'm pleased to be in the midst of my fellow Nigerians today after such a long time. And I'm going to read from my book of poetry entitled Chasing the Void and Other Poems. So just bear with me. The first one I'm going to read is entitled Strikes. One strike, two strikes. One strike, two strikes, and one more. One strike, two strikes, and some more. Two strikes, one strike, two strikes. Some more strikes, many more strikes, so many strikes. One more strikes, many more strikes. A string of strikes, strikes, just too many strikes. Bang! No more strikes. Either one or two, not many. No more striking, no more strikes. Not a bang, no more banging, no more strikes, no more. Thank you very much for that. I'm going to read the next poem entitled The Colors of a Planet. The earth is round. There are seas and oceans. The mountains are high. The valleys are low sometimes. The sun shines over us. The moon cries, its tears showering us. Its fullness protecting us humans. It's milky. Creamy yolk covers us like an umbrella. The darkness begging us to be seen. The planet is red. Sometimes we see it blue. Another time it becomes yellow. Somewhere else the planet is brown. It has peoples, it has plants. Different species of animals graze its food. Its natural forces display prowess. Many challenge its versatility. Some just sit back and others observe the changes. Babies that get born, as people get old and gray, they then die. Fade away, some get older and see red. Some get older and see the color blue. Some see the darkness, some are just coming out of darkness. It's God's beckons us to his own prowess, his own followers. It's religion struggle to find his own space. Some dress in pink, some in white, some multicolored outfits, and some just dress normal. We see red, we see blue, some people see pink, and some see nothing at all. We try to reconcile, some refuse to reconcile. Some pray, some do not pray at all, and some just drift along, negatively or positively. I see black, some see the color black, some do not see at all. We cry, we laugh, some are in pain, some do not feel it at all, pain or love. Some feel love, the pure color of love, poignant, real love, deep love, the redness of love. It's politics are sometimes real, sometimes not true. power fails, power believes, power conquers. Sometimes power is shared, and sometimes there's no power at all. I see yellow, I see brown, sometimes pink. Sometimes I see one day, another.
So how is the business being balanced and how is it affecting the right? How is it affecting the
No tears, no screaming, just in darkness, a gentle sleep. A flash of light and a gentle sleep to say good night. The planet gradually in shape, size and distance evolves itself, and we, as created here inhabitants, call gently from our slumber, greeted by a new day, a new beginning, a new universe. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Dele. Yes. The next poet I'm going to call is another poet I've known for some time. She's just published, a collection of poetry called Sea Salt in the Sea. That's Funmi Adewale Krushkoshka.
Good afternoon. The title of the poem is After That, Then. I had forgotten what eternity was like, loitering as I was at the doorposts of time. I had forgotten eternity because time is so much louder. The force of time is the force of realization. Eternity is subtle. She moves silently in spheres. Time moves sharply like arrows piercing the heart. My mother told me in the space of my lifetime, she squashed my grandfather's coronation, her father's festivities, several farmsteads, and hope crystallized by ritual into two-bedroom flats in Lagos and London south of the river. The reason ghosts pressed against the window panes, beckoning me beyond the balconies, only to fall silent when I reached the edge. Anyhow, the legacies and genealogies are now written. No more fear of forgetting them. No more need to remember them. Empire becomes Hamlet. Hamlet becomes highway. Highway becomes hallway. The morphing landscape from this majestic mountain view spans Benin, Rome, Mali, Samaria, all. The sun is rising above our garden. Let us have breakfast. After that, we will take a walk. Then we will work. Then we will help each other. After that, we will ease ourselves. We will sing and dance and worship. We will laugh and chat. Then sleep. After that, then. Thank you.
Right, I'm going to call another crossover artist. When I first knew him, he used to be a photographer. And now, Odiao Femo, a Nigerian poet, wrote The Poet Lied. And then Kole Adeojutola decided to do better. Wrote The Poet Fled, and then The Poet Bled. Kole, so.
When I say Eriwo, you all say, yeah. Eriwo!
Yeah.
Eriwo!
Yeah.
Eriwo!
Yeah.
Yeah. That is the word that I want to hear. That everybody here is present and everybody is alive and you're kicking. I have a message for the comrade. And the comrade, I hope you're listening. Now, thanks, comrade. The chain is getting stronger as our fate towards the river bird of hope draws closer. As our chain of the past calls the river by name, not by the color of its plume, but by what it lacks. Oh, the sack that the hunters will weave. We are bound to fate by the blood of our faith that tomorrow can be better. Take wind, sister. The gods are awake. What we have at stake is bigger than pans and cakes. You must open up to reason before wrath comes forth. Talk to the connectors of the past. Rock in groups to create images true and full. We shall be in your arms, armed with sermons of love that may kill their urge for war. Walk is a legacy, a hope for survival and strength. For how long shall we walk before we see the rain? For how long? For how long before we see the end of a race? For how long before we see the end of a race? Our search for survival and bread drains our strength, but for how long shall we sulk before we reap the gain? The ray of sun is on our trail, the snow on the grass can't freeze our brains or distract our heart from good feelings love will give. The meaning of the sun is in the heat and light, and the meaning of the wind can be read in wings. Thanks for allowing me sing as we build our bridges. Bring down the walls and touch the soil that gives birth to life. Let the song stop here as we get ready for the day when fighters will embrace. The dance in me moves towards in you, and the flute that will tune our steps are like leaves in the winds. But the steps that would win our freedom is rooted in love that binds. The bind of emotion evokes the spirits to motion, like the weaver's shuttle in the loom. Ah, I must go now. My thoughts are setting a path for me. Let me go before the moon debosses the sky, and birds begin their beckon to age, and fishes become the prey of hooks. And soon, children will clutch their books, but I, the writer of these words, will find solace by the book of dreams, and dreams that eat dreams, and find a home on the lips that storytellers parade. I am the eye of my world, the womb of my story. I must read you again. Someday, I will say, some other day when the moon bounces along the state. Eriwo!
Yeah.
Eriwo!
Yeah.
Eriwo!
Yeah.
Ayagbo, Ayato. I'm done.
Another writer, she is also one of those crossover writers. When I knew her, she used to be a poet, and then she wrote a novel which my daughter creatively called The Secret Wives of Baba Shegi's Lives. But actually the title is The Secret Lives of Baba Shegi's Wives. Lola Shone. And of course, there's a visual artist, a poet, and a novelist, and the next person I'm going to call is a dramatist. And we have so many so many crossover artists. When I first knew her, yes, that's the phrase of the day. She used to be a screenwriter, and then she's a dramatist now, and her play was shortlisted as one of the West End best plays last year. Ade Sholanke with Pandora's Box. And of course, the poet you've just listened to, Kole Adeodutola, if he hasn't disappeared. I'm not going to say very much. I'm going to leave the conversation to them, but we're going to have questions. They're going to introduce what they're going to say or what their views are, and we're going to entertain questions from you and also from our internet audience, because this program is being streamed online, as I'm told. Right. I don't know if I should sit down, but I don't want to sound intimidating. Yeah. Right. You've had a brief. The main thing is Nigeria is actually not known as the giant of Africa in terms of population, but in terms of the literary output, the visual output, it is the giant. Starting from this area of Port Harcourt, where we have people like Gabriel Okara, Ken Saruwiwa, and then the riverine area, J.P. Clark, and moving to the rest of Nigeria, Chinua Achebe, Professor Wole Soyinka, Zainab Alkali up in the north, Buchi Emecheta, Flora Nwapa. We have a plethora of writers, and Ben Onwuye, the artist. We have all these people. Now, we've really come quite a long way, you will agree. Now, what have we actually gained and what do we have to give to the world? I'll start with Azam.
Good afternoon, everybody. I think we have an awful lot. I think Africa, particularly, is the next frontier in terms of the creativity, whether it's in the literary world or in the visual arts or in the performing arts. We all know the giant strides that Nollywood has made in the world today. And only a couple of weeks ago, I was at the ICA watching a screening of Chimamanda's novel, Half of Yellow Sun. And this was the same occasion where there was a landmark visual art exhibition featuring the work of Kolade Oshinewo, Olaku, and a lot of other visual artists who are household names. In the visual arts, in the performing arts, in the literary arts, I think Nigeria is really, right up there. I came to England 25 years ago, having started my career in Nigeria as a painter, as an artist. I currently run the Nigeria Art Society UK. And I can tell you that we are making waves in the visual arts as well in the UK and other parts of the world. So there's a lot still to do. There's a lot of challenge for our art forms, from new media and technology, internet. Try to prize your young children away from video games and to go and pick up a book to read or drag them into my studio can be quite a task in itself. However, there is hope with events and initiatives such as the World Book Capital of the World, Port Harcourt. I mean, it's simply, I've read the book and I can see exactly why the award was won in the first place.
Thank you very much for that. Lola?
Why is it that Nigeria has been absolutely fantastic in what it's been able to offer the world creatively? I used to think maybe it was the yam that we eat, but of course there's yam in Ghana and other places, so I decided a few years ago that maybe it's the iru that's in our diet, or the ogiri. We have been very fortunate, and we've won just about every major prize in the world, in the literary world. I'd rather focus on what we shouldn't offer the world. Looking back at the first generation of Nigerian authors, I think they had the courage to explore and to interrogate Nigerian our culture, our traditions, our traditional practices. And I think somewhere along the way, it does seem that now, as a country, we seem to have forgotten exactly who we are. Hence, for instance, you have this massive wave of homophobia that's kind of Nigeria, the giant of Africa. I mean, you've heard about the new laws, and I think it's just a crying shame for somebody like me as a Nigerian author. It's something that I read and I was so ashamed of this. This is not, we don't want the world to remember us for our fundamentalist thinking and for our intolerance. What we would like is for the government to create, for those who don't have the opportunities, an enabling environment where people can write what they want to write, and where they again are brave enough to talk about the many things about our culture that we really should be having deep and meaningful conversations about. And literature is just a wonderful tool in achieving this.
It works indeed, yeah. That is coming from home, if I may say so. But the next two people on the panel actually they have the home experience, but they have the more recent outside home experience. I prefer to use that phrase, outside home. I'll go to the next Ade to see what she has to say about that, especially having written and worked in the British system.
Thank you, Shola. I'm Ade Shalanka. My interest in the work of the project, the Port Harcourt World Book Capital, and the other related projects is really very much as someone who's in the interface between two genres, as a writer but also as a filmmaker. I'm very excited, particularly by the prospects of creating more value in Nollywood or in Nigerian film generally. Because I think the literary landscape is offering so much material that is ripe for development and adaptation in those formats. My background is, yes, being raised here, but I also spent time working in Hollywood in America, and I've been very excited by the audiences that are growing for particularly Nigerian stories, Nigerian films. I'm working with Tunde Kalani at the moment on a project which has been an adaptation. So I'm very, very excited to look at ways prose and other recorded media can work together to really grow the audience for African stories.
Thank you.
Okay, yeah. Well, he's just introduced me. I'm actually a university teacher of Yoruba language at the University of Florida in Gainesville. And though you see Port Harcourt there, but it's also called the Garden City. And if you look at the end of Garden, is the Eden. And that's why those who gave them this World Capital thing, they were thinking of the Garden of Eden. And this is the Garden City, and they have a book, and there's capital to be derived from books. Having said that, my contribution will be that we have the Vice Chancellor of the person who is very, very knowledgeable about oral literature. One of the things that you will start to notice very, very soon is the fact that orature, an aspect of our lives of our production that have actually not made it into the global commons, is one thing that has gone into text. There's been a lot of orality in what you read in our literature. There are a lot of oral performers that have not been celebrated. But I promise you, I swear to God, that in the next 5 years, you're going to start to hear about these performers because of a new technology, or because of people like Lukman Sanusi and the Bubbles FM, will make it possible for people who perform and don't write. People like the works that Akinmi Shola has done, the works of Olatubosun. You know, there are so many oral performers in Nigeria that you'll be mesmerized with their verbal arts. Yes, we have till now told our stories in the written form. There are other forms that are yet not exploited in Nigeria and in Africa. I have in the last 6 months been traveling from South Africa to Sierra Leone, going on to Algeria, and my interest is really to meet with people who are not writers, but they're performers, and they have great stories to tell, and you would just be mesmerized if you allow yourself to think outside of the box, that Nigerian literature is not just about the written form, but there are those that have not written. Now, when we talk about things that have been written, we are also moving away from just the text. We're going into films, and we're having festivals, and world-class festivals for that matter. Nigeria is a place to be, in whatever way if you've never been, you better talk to the governor of Rivers State before you leave here, and I'm sure you'll be very glad you did. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. I'm going to pose a question which is I've been ruminating about, which is concerning what you expect of Port Harcourt as World Book Capital for this coming year. Rainbow Book Club has been doing quite a lot, giving books, publishing books, giving books to secondary schools, encouraging people to read, encouraging people to write, organizing workshops, and so on. So, and then also publishing. So, they are on the right path in that. What else do you think they could do to actually make not just Port Harcourt, but Nigeria greater than it is?
What they shouldn't do is introduce policies like the 62% duty on books being brought into the country. This is killing the industry. It's killing. This is a country that still has quite a high rate of illiteracy, and in states like Zamfara State, only 5% of the girls can read and write. That's tiny. That's looking at a very gloomy tomorrow. So what we need to do is make sure those who can, and of course I appeal to the governor of Rivers State to talk to the people who make these policies, to revise them and to hopefully overturn them, and again create an environment where creativity is celebrated. Thank you.
Write about $20 billion corruption. If we get that money, it will graduate not millions of girls. So you need to write about what we lose, the number of hospitals we are able to build with the $20 billion. If you write that, then we proceed.
The question is, what should Port Harcourt World Book Capital do? I as a media scholar, would say, yes, we've written books. There must be other ways in which I would like to see billboards, if they're not available yet, billboards of some fantastic poems. I would like to see on our buses, very little things. I would like to see pamphlets. Somebody said the secular world should do what the spiritual world is doing. They're having Sunday churches. And I don't see the reason why we cannot have secular churches whereby we would have little pamphlets of books just to titillate people to want to read. Yes, in this country you can get a book, get onto the underground, sit down and forget yourself and just read up. If you try that in some places where I know it might be your last chance, you don't do that. But there are other ways in which we can sell books and sell authors and merge with the various other forms of art. The painters, we still need the painters to come in and do some things. Yes, the book covers have been done beautifully, yes, but what of the popular culture? How do we get some of the stuff that are locked into books? Somebody told a lie that if you want to hide anything from a Nigerian, write it in a book. But it's a lie, I tell you. I tell you, that's a bloody lie. Because I know a lot of things that have been written. If it's gossip, if it's not true, if you write it, everybody will read it. But I'm sure that with fiction writers, we can promote them a little more than we're doing. I haven't heard of writers actually going on train journeys, stopping at different places to read and interact with the people. I am still looking for a time when we would have comedians for development, where you would have comedians going to villages. I mean, can you imagine an Ile Baba in a village that nobody ever has seen him, and he goes there and he reads some of his stuff that have been produced. So there are creative ways, I believe, that it is still possible to get to that last mile in Nigeria. And I know the lady got off as soon as she started to hear me read some of these ideas. We will get there.
Thank you very much, Kole. Yes, I want to take us back about 50, 60 years. And this is going to link to collaboration. I mean, we know in the late 50s, early 60s, we had the Mbari Club in Ibadan, which was stopped by that thing that some people call the civil war, which we have some other names for. And we don't want to go that line. There was the Mbari Club, and there were so many writers and artists who collaborated, people like Dimas, Wole Soyinka, J.P. Clark, and even South Africans like Mpatlele. They were all there. Now, what can we do, or can we use this project as a World Book Capital to inaugurate a kind of a new system by which writers can engage in healthy rivalry? Do you think so?
I think, for one, that there can be a lot more collaboration between the visual arts and the literary arts. Last year, I was at SOAS during a lecture on the work of Things Fall Apart by Chinua Achebe. And the consensus was that even though it's been translated into so many languages and it's available in so many different formats, we still have a struggle to sort of introduce our children who British-born, who've never really been to Nigeria as such, to this work. And if it was possible to translate the work into other art media, such as film, and in fact even the visual arts. So myself and another artist, a colleague of mine, took it upon ourselves to not just introduce the covers of these novels. I've done a whole load of covers for Heinemann over the years for the African Writers series, but also to use some of the content as subject matter for a lot of the work that we're doing. And we're still working on a series, based on Things Fall Apart, and hopefully in October, between the 25th of September and the 2nd of November, we are putting on an exhibition which would give another dimension to the content within a book. So it's looking at art medium and integrating, a different approach to, encouraging and sort of, kickstarting of the appeal for my children.
Thanks, Hassan. Lola, I know you are part of the Poetry Club at Ibadan. Do you want to have a say on this?
It's always wonderful when you have collaboration, especially within the different facets of the arts, and some of the things that we're doing, at AKE this year, we are taking 12 poems from 12 different poets, men, women, across the generations, and we're setting them to music. So we're working with composers, and of course we're also working with fabrics. We're trying to see how we can sort of put the lines from the work of different novelists into fabric, and get people to buy that and appreciate it, just as another way of introducing writing, and of course titillating and getting people excited about words. There's so many different ways that we can collaborate. I often wonder why in Nigeria it does seem as if we tend to say, okay, I'm a novelist, I don't want to, work with artists, but then you see the results. There are very, very few picture books these days, very, very few books for children, which, here, everywhere else in the publishing industry, in different markets, you'll find that it's an artist, it's a writer, they've come together to produce a book. This doesn't happen often enough, so this is definitely something that I'd like to see. I'd like to see artists getting trained in the art of illustration, and of course, getting writers to do write more children's books.
Thank you very much. I think I have to change my name to Audio of The Poet Lied. I know I said we're going to take some questions, but I'm going to slightly speed up the program and ask you to help me thank the panelists for their contributions. Right. Is published a book on Lagos, and it's going to be published by Cassava Publishers, or Cassava Republic, in this year. Lagos, City of Imagination, is going to offer us his intervention. K. Whiteman, former editor of West Africa.
I wasn't expecting to say something at this event. I came to listen rather than to prate. But it's quite moving to be here, and since you mentioned this book that I already published once in this country, but there is a Nigerian edition coming out which has a title that I prefer, which is City of the Imagination, because Lagos, for me, is so full of creative energy that it has given rise to any amount of literature, music, art, that anybody who goes there cannot help but feel the atmosphere. I have a chapter, in fact, specifically on what Nigerians have written about Lagos, including Professor Shoyinka. But there are so many things that to come naturally out of people's souls and hearts and minds that it's a book that I just picked up and found totally fascinating when I found it. I don't really have very much more to say than simply this year marks 50 years since I first went to Nigeria, which is a long time. No, it doesn't need applause. And I am glad simply to have the opportunity to just say a few words to you.
Now, we have two goodwill messages, and the first one is by His Excellency, who I've heard is really doing great work in River State, the Honorable Chibuike Rotimi Amechi, who is going to speak to us and probably tell us some new plans that he's had for us, because he's that kind of person. Good evening. I guess you must be evening by now. I wasn't expecting to speak, honestly. There's a plan. Where somebody was saying, what concern me? What is my business with World Book Capital? Apart from being a governor who has the supervising commissioner on education and who sits in a meeting where decisions are taken about education. When you meet writers, you just enjoy listening to writers. I don't write books. I've never tried to write one. I'm trying to do an autobiography about myself and my political struggles. But I thought that the most important thing to do here is to sit down and listen. Because if I talk here, you won't be happy. I'll be talking nonsense. I will be talking about how the young lady came about the idea of a World Book Capital. She didn't tell you the truth. She tried to summarize it. And it started in a very casual form. She called up the governor. Can I apply for the World Book Capital? I said, what is that? And she said, it's like, what are they doing? Why is that a French city? There's a French city where Caen, is it Caen? Cannes. It says, like that, and whatever it is, apply. And she said, but I need money for it. I said, we'll give you. And the state government made money available. And one day she came and said, we won. I said, we won what? And she said, we were selected to be the World Book Capital. It took her ages to convince me that it's a very important, how do you put it? Is it victory or what? And I said, okay, the government will back it. The government will assist to do everything possible to ensure that we have a wonderful hosting. When she felt I was not giving it enough attention, normally you should expect not to give it enough attention, she reported me to Professor Wole Soyinka, who then came to Port Harcourt and threatened me, if you mess up this country, I will mess you up. I said, Prof, rest assured that we'll do everything possible to make sure we don't mess up the country. 3 weeks ago, she again went to report me to Professor Wole Soyinka. And then Prof called me. I said, yes, sir, we'll do everything you have just said, sir. When I called her, I said, if you dare report me again to Professor Wole Soyinka, then you will see how stubborn I am. But I think the city is prepared to host the world. We are. Being modest, I think we are about the only city, including the federal government, that does about 20 to 25% of our budget for education. We started from 18 and we started climbing, and we make sure we release all the money that we have voted for education. The reason is that if you have a city or a country filled with ignorant people, then you have problems. That is why I continue to say that the solution to Boko Haram lies on two fronts: education and agriculture. And you ask why agriculture? Currently, the level of education of these Boko Haram people is at the primary school level, and they are up to 20, 30 years, so they may probably not go to school. So they form what we call the unskilled labor. And so if you start farming, they will join in the farming process, and therefore you provide for them. So when I say agriculture, I'm talking about poverty eradication. Oh, okay, well that word eradication is not the proper word. Reduction in poverty. And once you school them, once you educate them, they now know that nobody, just like I'm a Christian, and I'm educated, if my priest comes to tell me that I have to kill somebody because Jesus Christ says so, I say, which part of the Bible is this thing written? So I can read it. If Jesus Christ says kill, then I will go and kill because I need to go to heaven. But if Jesus Christ didn't say that, then I will kill because you have to tell me where it is in the Bible. So I have always said that we need to focus on education all over the country and invest more money on education, and then also invest money in how to reduce poverty. The amount of money we politicians or elites, not just the politicians, elites put in our pockets that we don't put people, it's being 60% of them not about school. That's why I asked for that when I was growing up in university, I never read too many books on flowers. I never read Wole Soyinka's books.
I said, read Wole Soyinka's books. You're married to the family. Read Achebe. You won't be seeing flowers. They talk about the realities that confront us on a day-to-day basis. I tell you when I'm very depressed, I read A Man of the People, because he would laugh from the beginning to the end. And that's a satire of Nigerian post-colonial politicians. You know, how many have we written? Every day, the Nigerian politicians continue to provide us with themes to write about. You can write on 20 billion. You can write on $49 billion. So many things to write about. You can write on the fact that we come overseas for ordinary medical checkup. Yes. And they check us from head to toe, they say, okay, then you bounce back. We can buy those equipments and be checked in Nigeria. Yep. So if we continue to write on flowers, how beautiful London is, how growing Lagos is, then our children will chase us out soon. God bless you.
Coco, I don't know who to report you to. but the misery you put in my already complicated existence. But listen, when we see an initiative, especially in a society where one has virtually given up, it's inevitable. I think there's absolutely no other direction to go than to back that kind of initiative, especially that initiative falls within your own competence, within your own mission as a writer. And all I can say is, Coco, I haven't seen such an energetic person, such a determined and visionary individual in her generation. I just haven't. And when I saw this, and this of course is years ago, you know, the initiative of the Rainbow Club, I even agreed to do a reading with the president of Nigeria for children. I mean, anything which takes me to do a reading with the kind of governance we have right now, you must know that it really has to be pretty heavy. And I did a reading for children, and all this came out of an initiative in Port Harcourt, and one has to acknowledge that. I also have to acknowledge the backing which Governor Rotimi has given to this event. If it had been a different kind of governor, I think by now, Coco would have migrated permanently. There's no question. You know Nigeria, or you know what I'm talking about. So it's been for me a great delight. And in any case, I've been giving up, not only on my generation, but on the generation after me, and the one after that. And so I concentrate my energy these days on the hopeful, the ones who don't even know the realities of Nigeria, which we think they've been born into paradise and still stand a chance of turning it into a kind of purgatory. That's a halfway route to paradise. That's the description, that's the explanation of my commitment to this project. And also along the way, I became aware of certain obstacles, which even Governor Rotimi is not aware of. In other words, the kind of cooperation, the kind of collaboration which this project should have received from the federal government, it has not received. I'll go further. I know, I'm in a position to know that there have been efforts at sabotage of this project from places which, no matter what the politics of Nigeria are today, it should have been something we should take as casually, as part and parcel of even the options, the optimistic options of the nation. But to encounter, and I haven't told either of them this, to encounter, as a result of my position, international connections, to encounter definite effort at sabotage, sometimes by omission, neglect, pretense ignorance of what is happening. I cannot believe, I really find it very difficult to believe that no matter what the content, the political context are, this project has not received the kind of backing that it should have from the federal government. I say it's quite, and I'll say this quite openly, I am disappointed and ashamed of the negative attitude towards this project simply because it's located in dissident country. You will see some, there'll be more, let me tell you, there'll be more sabotage because of my presence here with this dissident. You know, calls himself a governor. He's a dissident. And I know that you have to work, in the remaining few days, you'll even have to work harder to overcome the negativism, the really, you know, appalling level of awareness and commitment of your brothers, you know, in Abuja, and sister also. I should have mentioned that. So gird yourselves for the last lap. You know, it's going to be the most critical. There are letters which should be written, which have never been written, which have not been received by UNESCO. And this is one of the reasons why, in fact, I made this effort to pass through London today. There is hope. As I said, frankly, I've given up with that generation. I've given up with the next one. But there is hope. And I'm glad you mentioned Boko Haram. With a pernicious movement like Boko Haram, which absolutely says no books, how can anyone fail if you believe in yourself, believe in education, literacy, etc.? How can anyone fail to pull out all the stops, to use this as a response? Nobody is saying go and carry out and fight Boko Haram, although we might yet get to that. Some of you, if you're too old, you may have to be mobilized for at least backup energy for the military force. We're moving towards that area. So how can you not back such a potent instrument in which you say directly, you say you are Boko Haram, we say we are Boko Halal. And then you do whatever you can, you know, to give a response. In addition, you do what the governor has just commended: educate, pull back from nihilism, from the philosophy of death and total negativism, pull them back by introducing our youth, the children, to options of intelligent and productive existence. Look, have you followed us here? I'm talking about sabotaging. You tap phones, you pass laws tapping internet and so on, and now you're using what is wrong with you? How do you speak for a few moments without me? So let me thank you publicly, both Boko and the governor, who says he's not interested in books. You know, obviously, at least he's interested in education at one level, which is all that matters. And we'll supply the material for the education. So thank you so much, and please, whatever I can do, carry it out. This is one battle which has to be won, not for ourselves, but for the new generation. Thank you. Thank you, Prof.
Yes, thank you very much. As you've heard, the Boko Haram people have chased us here, and because of that, I'm not going to take the 50 questions I promised myself I was going to take. So I'm just going to take one or two. Does anybody have anything to say? I'm just going to throw it open. If not, oh yes. Do you want to come forward? Yeah. Thank you. Because this.
My name is Dari Oluwati from Lagos, Nigeria. I'm highly delighted to be in this gathering. My question is, this is support to move education forward in Nigeria. Prof has said it. Our Excellency also said it. It baffles us that from Abuja, about 4 years ago, the President brought up a project, Bring Back the Book. Just about 4 weeks ago, we had the announcement, we had the document saying that 62.5% have been slammed on books. So even our friends in diaspora, if you write, it means those books cannot come to Nigeria via our own interpretation. So what are we going to do? If education must grow in Nigeria, why should this kind of policy come at this time? That is my question.
That's a big question. I didn't go to school, so I don't think I can deal with that. I'll just call on the consultant to this project, Mr. German Anikulapo, to attend to that and announce the next part of the project, of the program.
I don't work for government.
We're working for government now. Yes, exactly.
I'm working for your government. Well, I'm not giving the vote of thanks, but my secret mission is out, according to Professor Shoyinka, and I'm ready for my punishments. Well, every time we talk to Coco about this project, she's always saying it's not about me, it's about the team that I have. She has a lot of young people working with her. I think this is one project that's really working with very, very young people of diverse training and origin and from around Africa. So I'm going to call on our sister, Daniela Peneso, who is actually the one manning this whole stand and the one who is running the whole thing. She's very shy, so she'll give you the vote of thanks and then I'll be it.
Thank you very much. I'm actually not shy at all. On behalf of the Port Harcourt World Book Capital team, I'd like to thank you all for coming. I know it was short notice, but thank you all for coming, for the writers, the poets. And I would like to say a special thank you to our governor for being here today. A special thank you to our goodwill ambassador, Professor Shoyinka. A special thank you, sir, to Professor... Okay, now, you know I'm not really from Nigeria, but sorry, sir. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. A special thank you to Margaret Busby, sorry. I knew I'd get it on the second try. Thank you very much for coming. Port Harcourt is an exciting time in Port Harcourt right now for writers, for writing, for books. And we are inviting everybody here to our opening ceremonies. We have so many activities, so many events, readings, and we would like as many of you as can come over and be a part of this historical event. Thank you, and there'll be we'll be giving out some small tokens, and there are some drinks over there, so please feel free to partake in any of this. Thank you very much.
Sir, what is your general take on today's event?
Wonderful, well organized, and I hope that on the 23rd we'll be able to, will not disappoint the country.
Just as music has become a way I express myself, I believe the knowledge is power to unlock inner potentials,
opportunities, possibilities.